Welcome back. Big up the GLP TikTokers them. PNP, come off. Go on side. Move up. Move. Big up the Jamaica Labour Party. Big up the Jamaica Labour Party. Big up the Jamaica Labour Party. Support them. Big up Oral Wallace. Big up them girl baby mother. Big up Goody. Big up Winner. Big up Public Politics and Sports. Big up Joshua Munchibi Nuts. Chuck Finley, God bless Nally, Sandy, Infomedia, Rusty General, Lashik, Petal, Marcia G, Miller, Alex Higgins, HR Go, Philippians, Goody, me call her name already, Classic Jam 876, Dujan World, who me left out, cause me nah call none of them name, because I have a video dedicated to them later on in the evening. This video, when you listen to Nationwide George Davis. And upon Nationwide, he must speak on CVM. Because remember, I have the video with Dean Jackson Miller. I speak to the JFJ people, them, and the NIA, and the railway, the jam people, them. I have that video there. Everybody see that video there already. Someone see already the George Davis video. Me still I got play the George Davis video. 3 video now. Emily Shield, Dean Jackson Miller, George Davis. So I'm going to play the George Davis video now for show you how this seat full. You see you, Marky G. And you see you, Jamaican people. I not condole with no slackness. I not support nothing illegal in this government or then government or the past government. But suppose it was a case well, we have a black man where come from a place where blah 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 blah. And him eat a food. A son will bring him down for a white man. A son will go bring him down for a white man. Remember I said this is a credibility we are dealing on an honorable thing. This is a prime minister. Some don't really want to touch that and say, well, okay, 2 grand, it means say, in my prime minister, say him for grab a food and we don't feel like, no. We just look into it. When you got the national stadium wants Jamaica play Mexico, a Jamaica on the support. A Jamaica on the want to win. You understand me? When you go in the cricket field and I say West Indies are play with Jamaicans, even when Jamaica are upon it, the Caribbean don't bring. Saying this, look how now bring down the man. With pure lie. See Marky G, him go along in and town. Where the council dead from the Jamaica Labour Party were there. Him run gone in the gang campaign. Him down man Barrington leave. Me not see Barrington leave here sing no song. The only thing Barrington leave down the pan. Me ready. People only know about that bun the people them where I entertain them because them have a pick a party. So don't know about that bun Barrington leave, you know. Understand, because we don't have him as a legend. I don't have him as a big artist, iconic. So just leave Barrington, leave it. Marky G go there and him a beat him chest say, him no matter where a guy want say, him know the law and him know the law go. So they can carry any defamation suit against him. But him a go speak on the Integrity Commission. Marky G no read it. You know you don't read it, Marky G. We know you don't read it. And you don't pay your lawyer for read it and give you back a little snippet and say, well, that. You take the paper, you chat. And yeah, Emily feels she's my friend. Because Emily, she's a PNP. Matalana PNP, them control Guinea, them control RGR. So how you have Emily, she's out there report this. And you gone on in town, on a stage and chat foolishness. You think me I go play that video there? Down in town? You know, must say mad to backside. Rubbish. George Davis have called the Archer live. Say, I want to listen to George Davis. I want to listen to the one Calder. I want to listen to Archer. I want to listen to them. They said when I come on TV, I beat our chest when she did it and jump up. Oh, the date. Andrew Onis, though, have no right to come out and tell nobody, say, him have been investigated by the Integrity Commission for illicit enrichment. Him not have no right to do that. The day when them ask him, when the IC question him have right to answer. But the next day, when them inform him and say, no, sir, we are check you out, him don't have no right. No right him don't have. Me only one know say him never tell no lie in the interview when them ask him. Because him have him document for sure, say, the day when them ask him about that question, he didn't lie. Him never lie.
Welcome to Lead Story on this Thursday here on CVM TV. Matters in the last 2 hours have robbed me of a couple of talking points I intended to pursue because the situation has changed around those issues, specifically the one concerning the timeline for when the Prime Minister knew he was under investigation for illicit enrichment. The proverbial sword of Damocles hangs over the heads of certain people, given that the Prime Minister has given instructions to his legal team to take action against those who accuse him of lying about the timeline where that very, very important part is concerned. When did he know he was under investigation for illicit enrichment? More to the point, I'm going to share with you now the text of the statement issued on his behalf by his attorneys. This is what they've said. So, Georgia Gibson-Henlin, part of the Prime Minister's legal team, and what she's saying is this. April 26, 2023. Now, it's important to take some time to go through the timeline. So they're saying April 26, 2023, Holness received a letter from the Director of Information and Complaints advising him that the statutory declarations for 2021 were referred for investigation under sections 32 and 42 of the Integrity Commission Act. Holness was further advised that the Director of Investigation would subsequently be in touch with him. Then, a few days later, May 5, same year, 2023, the Director of Investigations confirmed that the matter was referred to him for investigation. He stated that he was in the process of conducting the assessment and preliminary inquiries and would be in touch with Holness in due course. May 26, 2023. Director of Investigation wrote to Holness to advise that, quote, new material had come to light which had been referred to him for investigation. He again advised he was conducting his assessment and inquiries with a view to inviting Holness for an interview. June 20, 2023, Holness's team wrote to the chairman of the Integrity Commission objecting to the manner in which the matter was referred and indicating that Holness was not given an opportunity to respond to the new material. This was copied to the Director of Investigation. By July 11, 2023, the chairman of the Integrity Commission responded and disagreed with the position of Holness's legal team. On July 19, 2023, a letter was sent to Holness inviting him to an interview. Correspondence between that date and August 18, 2023 were concerned with fixing a date for the interview. Now, Holness's team says, given the above, the communication of August 18, 2023 stated that a notice pursuant to Section 48 of the Integrity Commission Act, Section 14, subsection 5, etc., was dispatched to the legal team. To be clear, and based on Holness's lawyer's records, it is only on August 18, 2023 that it was communicated to them that the interview investigation was being done under Section 14, subsection 5 of the Corruption Prevention Act. Holness's legal team say they took and maintained the objection stated earlier in their letter of June 20, 2023. The timeline, Holness's lawyers say, and the documents confirm that at the time when Holness addressed the matter on August 17 at a location in northern Clarendon, the media heard he was there and our representatives presented themselves there and the question was asked of the Prime Minister. They're saying that at that time on August 17, 2023, the Integrity Commission had not communicated to Holness that he was being investigated for illicit enrichment. They say that the statements or suggestions that have been made in the public domain that the basis of the investigation came to Holness's attention from about April 2023 are inaccurate and that instructions have been given to pursue legal action against those persons who make statements in the public domain that are inconsistent with these facts. Hence why I am constrained. I wouldn't disrespect my guests by bringing them to comment on an issue where this legal action is poised to happen. Yeah? After the break, I will have to deal with other aspects of this voluminous report to get their perspectives, all in the hope of hoping that you'll get a clearer picture of the issues at play. Welcome back to Lead Story here on CVM TV. Recall at the very top I said that the PNP held a press conference today where they said that the Prime Minister is unfit for office given the details of the Integrity Commission report, and that he must either resign or call fresh elections so the people can pass the ultimate verdict on how they perceive this Prime Minister and the government he leads. For perspective, I'm turning to the Executive Director of the Jamaica Accountability Meter Portal, JAMP, Jeanette Calder, and and Daniel Archer from National Integrity Action. Both women coming with perspectives that I hope can simplify issues for you. Let me start with you, Daniel. Is there anything in the report that has given you cause to ponder on whether the Prime Minister is of the requisite integrity for the office he holds?
Well, what I think we need to look at, George, is when you look at this report, and as I've consistently said, it takes a lot of reading to find the different areas. If you're looking at things that give you pause to assess the situation, I noticed that the report used 3 kinds of assessment to look at his income. And they looked at a period being 2018 to 2023. So they looked at the entire period, and they used different mechanisms to assess whether or not there was lawful income or explainable income, and then try to see whether or not there were any trends in the increase in what he lawfully was able to have and what his lifestyle reflected. So you look at the report, and being very honest with you, George, when I went through this report as a lawyer, I was flabbergasted. I was shocked at the intensity of the work that seemed to have gone into the assessment of the income. So they used this thing called reference analysis, where they were looking at the transactions, and they were looking to see what the transactions spoke about and were there any trends. And then they looked at witness statements, and they got a forensic accountant to examine specific transactions. And they wanted to see whether or not that's objective enough. So they did another test, which is called a net worth analysis. And so when they looked at the net worth analysis and they took up all the statutory declarations that the Prime Minister had filed, they sought to see whether or not there was any discrepancies between what was declared and what was the actual status of his financial standing. And they had also applied what was called the source and application of funds analysis. So now you're looking to see, and this was what I thought was important, this is where the investigator compares the total amount of wealth a person has enjoyed with the lawful sources of income over a specific period. And this is where we got a lot of the details. The loans that were made from NCB Capital to Imperium, it looked at the bond investment, it looked at the company interactions, and what you seem to have gotten here is an assessment of what income he declared he had and how he explained how he came by it. And so the investigator says, let me have a look at your personal expenses so I can assess whether or not you really have all this money to pay for all of the transactions that we're seeing. When he looked at that, he didn't get the personal expenses to be able to test the things that he was seeing. And so he could not make that decision because there was no personal expenses.
Jeanette, thank you for that, Daniel. Jeanette, there are many people who are saying, well, look, for what the Integrity Commission found, only one thing graduated to the level of being worthy of recommending a charge for. That was done. The officer in charge of carrying on prosecutions said no. With that as the case, why are we still talking about an investigation that remains alive with recommendations for further actions from 2 entities under the state umbrella?
Yeah, I really appreciate that question, because I think, honestly, another way I would put it to match the question that's out there, because I really do want to connect it back to a very concerning debate that's out there, is this a witch hunt? And my answer to that is nothing I have seen suggests that it is. When I first said to the viewers that the 5 commissioners and the 5 directors did not create an integrity commission, our parliament very MPs decided that they actually needed to improve on a pre-existing organization that used to, from 1973, check on their assets to make sure that they were not illicitly enriching themselves. I am familiar with it because I was a public servant, and based on the work that I did, I was required to go through this process myself. And I can remember reading the previous institutions' reports where they would keep on asking George, Parliament, to give us more powers. What were the powers that they wanted? If I, for example, negotiating a contract, as I did then on behalf of the government for a land developer to go into a joint venture with the government, a land developer could come, because that's a decision I would make and a recommendation on a $140 million housing project. Ms. Calder, we give you 10% of it. If I get that $10 million, 140, so if I get that $14 million, George, I'm not going to come home with it and put it under a mattress.
Yes.
I have to hide it, which is what I would have to do,
yes,
in an asset. It could be a house, it could be an investment.
Jeanette, Jeanette, hold on. I don't want to break your stride. So just hold it right there. I have to take the break and we'll come back to lead story already. I wish I had another hour. Jeanette Calder, you were answering the question as to that is occupying the minds of many people. Why are we still here talking about this issue when a report has been tabled? They say nothing in the report that a charge has been recommended for, which is the one thing that has been knocked back. Why is this investigation still alive? And you were answering.
Right. So I was saying in the past, the previous institution needed more powers, because if I hid that 14 million in an asset, they needed to be able to have access to like the tax database to verify what I'm saying I have or don't have, or like the National Land Agency database to say, Ms. Calder, did you hide anything in land? They didn't get any extra powers. But when the new Integrity Commission came into being, this administration strengthened their powers, George. So they were able to now see further. Now, in the process of, I don't want to say investigating first, but evaluating a declaration that has been made by a public official, you don't just start at illicit enrichment. If you begin to see things that the person cannot explain where they got the resources from for an asset they have, it slowly begins to morph into not just a preliminary evaluation of your declaration, but if you can't answer the questions and you cannot satisfy them by documentation, not just say so, it slowly moves towards an investigation. And in the process of an investigation, George, you are going to come across more things, not one thing. Mm-hmm. Now, in the case of Mr. Holness, there are 8 things in addition to the question about the bank accounts. Right. The bank accounts matter has been settled. They have found that Mr. Holness, in responding to the other 8, and I'm not finished yet, so it could be more, but the 8 other issues where his explanations are not matching back the documentation that they're getting from banks, from his own bank statements. What they are saying to the people of Jamaica is that we have gone as far as the powers that government has given us can. What we need now, since Mr. Holness is saying this and we have evidence saying that, we now have to hand this thing over to another investigative body that has gotten what? Even more powers than we have to pull back the veil. Mm-hmm. Now, what the FID can do, George, last 10 seconds on this is, the FID doesn't need my cooperation, doesn't need the Prime Minister's cooperation. The FID operates at a level that they can follow the stream of any financial transaction, particularly over a certain amount. So they're merely saying, we have taken this as far as we can go. You are another government agency. This is why you exist. Finish this. And so this the language out there that, boy, they might abandon the case and boy, they don't know what they might do. That's not what it is. It's how Jamaica has designed an accountability framework. Auditor General, MOCA, FID, and everybody doing different parts when the time comes. And the time has now come for the FID to resolve the matter for us.
And so, Daniel, carry on. Proceed.
Go ahead. I was just going to say what Jeanette has said now allows you to understand the different layers that they'd have used to assess or to analyze that information. So yes, this thing about illicit enrichment is not like they're looking for it, you know. What it really is something that says, as a public servant, what you have in your bank account and what your lifestyle affords, the bonds, the things that you have, the interaction between the companies. If you can't explain where you get all this money from, then it becomes a problem. And that is what is being said in this report.
Yeah. And so, Daniel, the issue of integrity, in this specific instance, many people are alleging, especially the PNP, and we have to remember that this issue is ripe for partisan politics. I'm not dragging any of you into it. There are enough actors stoking that fire by themselves. They don't need any help. But this issue, the issue of integrity, and whether in the course of an investigation such as this, even where the threshold is not met for a criminal charge to proceed, but based on what has been found, there is a fracture in the integrity or the feeling of integrity around a person in as high a political office as the Prime Minister. Do you think there's any credence to that argument in what you have read in these 100 and odd pages?
And I'm going to tell you why, so that you as the journalist, the host, and the listeners can assess it for themselves. One of the things the report highlights is private real estate dealings with Norman Brown, who chairs both the UDC and the Housing Agency of Jamaica. This is an example now.
Yes.
If it is that there are private dealings between the Prime Minister and this gentleman, it now brings into question any decision that would have been made in respect of land. Let's say, for instance, a decision that says, oh, we can reduce transfer tax. Are you reducing the transfer tax for the benefit of the people of Jamaica, or are you reducing the transfer tax for the benefit of your own private real estate dealings? So what is happening now, George, is that you're now going to start to question why is it that there are decisions that are being made in Parliament or being promoted by the Prime Minister, are they being done in the interest of the country, or are they being done to pursue private aims? Once you start asking that question, you're going to start disputing the credibility or the validity of the decisions that are being made. And so integrity now recalls and says, when you are not open, people ask you, are you involved? Do you know anybody who is involved? And there is a denial or a refusal to entertain such a question. Remember, under the Act, the individual who has been asked to answer questions or who has been called in can speak.
Yes.
The person who cannot speak is the Integrity Commission.
Yes.
So the question of integrity now is whether, were you open about it? Were you honest about these dealings? Did you declare and say to the public, I have a relationship in the business arena with, say, for instance, a Norman Brown, or I have interest in green energy bond that I'm promoting green energy in Jamaica? Look, the question is, were you really doing this for yourself?
Yes.
Or were you doing it for the country, for the benefit of the country?
Understood. And so, Jeanette, the clock is our enemy, but we have to get this one through.
Yeah.
Do you have sympathy for the position the Prime Minister finds himself in, whereby he's being buffeted repeatedly from every angle by his political rivals in a matter where nothing conclusive has been arrived at? There are still open lines of inquiry which must be closed and which will be closed. But while the process of closing those continues, his reputation and his integrity are being called into question.
That's it. Yes, and an election. Let's be clear.
Absolutely right. Yes,
the stakes are very high. So the question is what, George?
The question is, do you have sympathy for the position, the very invidious position Holness finds himself in?
No, I have said this several times, and maybe every time I have discussed this, I have spoken about the fact that this is impacting. Look, first of all, I have sympathy for the country. It is embarrassing for us. There's the office of the Prime Minister, and then there's the individual himself. And then the fourth category of sympathy that I've expressed in the past is his family. He has 2 boys. Yeah, and that's still at relatively young ages, and we know how our peers can be. So absolutely. I also have sympathy. We don't have the time to go into it, but I have seen, based on the places I've sit in government, where mistakes like this have been made. So I have sympathy, but I also have a concern and a sympathy for the country and what these questions can mean, yeah, if they don't get answered. Now, hold on, hear me on the integrity thing here now, George. I also want to say to Jamaica that while I do have sympathy for all of those 4 categories, the government of Jamaica has done an amazing job, I think, in picking the people, regardless of what others have tried to make others believe, Just go and look at who are the 5 commissioners and how they have served this country. If you add up the ages of the 3 of us here, they've probably been doing it longer. There's not one taint. We're talking about a retired appeal court judge, a Supreme Court judge, an Auditor General, Eric Crawford, who is 35 years at PricewaterhouseCoopers. Look at the other people who were also impugning their character when we are suggesting that we have politicized the Integrity Commission. So I have sympathies all around. Well, here is what we have to do. We have to let the process, and I think our legislators did a fairly good job of that act. We have to see the process through to the end, which is why I will say, if I had to advise Mr. Holness, I would say, Mr. Holness, listen, this is not good, but you have the courage of your convictions that your record is clean. Do not influence the FID not taking this on because you're tired of it. Let the questions be removed, because if the FID doesn't resolve this, either by agreeing with the Integrity Commission and you have to face the courts, or exonerating you and letting the people of Jamaica know that you are clean. Justice must not only be done, it must be seen to be done. You can't just claim you have integrity. The country needs to believe it. So let the process go to its natural end. You are a part of designing this process. Let it be finished so that we can clear you good and proper. That's important.
Daniel, I'm out of time. Jeanette, I'm out of time. Thank you very much for your contributions this evening. I'm certain that there are people who will see things a little bit more clearer based on the arguments both of you advanced this evening. Thank you again.
George.
All right. Good. Daniel Archer and Jeanette Calder there. That's the time I have for Leicester. You see the clock on the wall. Listen, this issue is as knotty as a cheap wig, and the FID has issued a statement today saying that it has received communication from the Integrity Commission. It has to do its own assessment before it decides what, if anything, to do based on what the Integrity Commission has asked of it. And we all know what the Integrity Commission will ask of the FID and Tax Administration Jamaica, because those have been communicated in the report tabled in the House of Representatives on Tuesday. It is a tough time for the Prime Minister. It is a tough time for the people who lead the Integrity Commission. And as Jeanette Calder says, it's a tough time for us. Tough times make champions. Let's see how Mr. Holness manages the pressure from here, especially the pressure being heaped on him by the parliamentary opposition, whose raison d'etre is to get power. They do what is necessary to get power, as all political parties do. Understand that, and perhaps you will understand better why it is that the posture of the opposition is as it is. Leads to